All right. So Andy and I got to go over some leadership training this last weekend in Tahoe. Andy wasn't there, but she was there in spirit and on Zoom, so she got to hear it all. And Jeremy Red, who is like a really amazing corporate guy, spoke to us about time management because that is something that literally every single person in the room felt very strongly like we were struggling with. And I think that all of us as a team can relate to that, feeling like we are attached to our phone, attached to our computers. We're not sure how to separate it so that we are actually present with the people that we want to be present with and the reason that we started doing this. So we are going to go ahead and share about this buckets training that we did. And I hope everybody at least brought a piece of paper and a pen. You do not have to make it all pretty and color-coded right now. You'll definitely want to go back to this, especially with your family. But definitely at least get the gist of it down on paper right now, and we're going to give you very specific examples of that. So that being said, I'll go ahead and leave it over to Andy right now. Do you want me to start screen sharing right now, or?
Sure.
All right, so I will work on screen sharing.
Thanks for hopping on tonight. So just like Shayna was saying, I know that I don't think I've set a very good example about this time management thing. I've had a lot of comments lately from coaches saying like, I don't know how you do it. You must be a super mom. Like, I don't want to be working. You must work all day, all night. Do you ever sleep type of thing? And I don't want that to be the culture of our team anymore. So I know it starts with me setting a better example. And so this really stuck out to me, and I was grateful to be able to zoom into this training that they got from Jeremy Red. One thing, right as we started the training, Kelly, you could just see it on her face, she got kind of overwhelmed with it all, and she said that she felt very anxious. And it was interesting to me because I was sitting on the other side of the computer feeling the very same way. Because, my big why for wanting this to work personally is so that I can be home more with my kids. And if I'm tied to my phone and on my computer all the time, then I'm missing the mark there. So before I heard all of this, I had already made it my New Year's resolution going forward 2016 to be better. And hearing this was such like, oh my gosh, such a freeing thing. So if you're feeling anxious about the time management thing, I want you to change that anxiety to an empowering feeling. I loved how Jeremy said that. Change your anxiety needs to be changed to empowering yourself as leaders and as coaches. So this whole idea of buckets is genius if you ask me. What I'm going to have you do, Shanna, can you go to the next slide, please, is draw 5 buckets on a sheet of paper, and basically 5 squares. And each square is going to represent something that's important to you that takes up time out of your daily, weekly schedule, whether it's your job, whether it's your family, whether it's your faith, whether it's personal time, things like that. So start brainstorming those things, and we're going to go through the whole, we're going to go through each bucket with you. But for right now, I hope you all have your piece of paper and you wrote down your 5 buckets.
You don't need to label them right away. Just make sure that you've got your buckets all drawn out there so you've got 5 squares, because we've got some that we are going to be filling in for you.
Yes.
So you've got
right now you're just thinking of where you spend your time, where you want to be spending your time. And on top of that, if anything doesn't fit in these buckets as we go through, then maybe they're not that important, and maybe they're things that you don't need to be spending your time on anymore. So maybe they're things you need to give up. Maybe they're relationships that aren't building you up, but yet they're just sucking, life and time out of you that aren't healthy for you personally or for your business. Maybe it's a lot of TV watching. Maybe it's wasted time scrolling through Facebook, things like that. Those things are not going to be in your buckets because we're not going to do those things anymore. Okay. And I can tell you too, Shane and I were just talking when we first got on this call about how freeing this has been. And it's only been a few days since we've been using this. And it really has helped me to be like, okay, I did my tasks for the day for Beachbody, and I'm putting my phone down, and I'm not answering text messages. I'm not answering messages on Facebook or anything like that. I'm not checking my notifications. Everything is off. I am unplugged, once I'm done with my work. So I don't have that feeling anymore of the hamster on the wheel, that I always could be doing more or sending another message, or I heard my phone go off, so now I'm going to go answer it. Jeremy gave a really good example of what he does in his life ever since he started these buckets, because he loves his job, so he works a ton. And I think that's awesome, how much he talked about how much he loves it, but at the same time, but at the same time, there's been times that it took him away from his family more than he wanted it to. So that's where this whole concept comes into play. So does everybody have their 5 buckets drawn out?
All right. So I'll go on from here. So you've got your 5 buckets drawn on your sheet of paper. Now, the first thing I want you to do with these 5 squares, whatever you made them look like, is draw 4 big lines between them. And this is meant as a way to show that you are separating each of these buckets out. They're not going to bleed into each other. They're not going to be things that I'm doing this while I'm doing this, or for example, you're not going to be working while you're spending present time with your family. So these 5 lines just represent the fact that you are drawing a line between how you are going to be spending your time. I'll go on to the next slide because it's really small. But basically, what you're going to do with these buckets, every single bucket is going to get a name. Every bucket is going to get a color. Every bucket is going to get a weekly hour allotment. So however many hours you are going to dedicate to this part of your life. And then every bucket is going to get 3 to 4 vital activities. And basically, I kind of looked at this like the vital behaviors in our business. These are the things that you have to do in order to fulfill what you feel like is important in that bucket. And it's going to be different for everybody. I don't want you to feel like there's a right and a wrong here. There is no right and wrong. This is you and what is important to you, your family, and your life. One of the things we'll encourage you to do at the end of this is to go over this with your family, especially like your spouse or your significant other. Go over this with them, because this is something that's going to affect them as well. And the whole point of doing this is so that you don't feel guilty for spending time on your business, because you know that, okay, this is my time to spend on the business, and this is my time to spend with you, to spend with the kids, to spend doing whatever else is in your buckets. So it kind of gets you away from that feeling of guilt and more towards that feeling of, okay, I'm going to be spending dedicated, purposeful time on these tasks.
All right, so if you're a business builder, which I hope all of you are, if you're on this call, I'm assuming you're business builders. I'm assuming that you want this, you're all in, and you're working towards big goals for 2016. So your last 2 buckets are going to be Beachbody related. One of them is going to be Beachbody personal, and one of them is going to be Beachbody organization. So what I mean by that is Beachbody personal is your vital behaviors every single day. That would be, for me, that is top priority when I'm talking about my personal Beachbody business. 3 vital behaviors. Another example would be posting on social media, goal setting for my own business, hitting Success Club, prospecting, building relationships. Obviously, this is more than 3 to 4 tasks. I'm just throwing out ideas on what I find important in my personal business. And then the other bucket being your Beachbody organization is your team. So whether your organization right now is 1 other coach or 30 other coaches or whatever it is, you need to prioritize that bucket as well. So whether that's recognition, which is huge. Little side note, we talked a lot about how important it is to recognize everybody on your team for certain tasks. It's not always about Success Club. It's not always about selling a challenge pack. Sometimes it's about their personal goals with their fitness. So recognition for me is a huge part of my Beachbody organization bucket. Trainings could be part of your bucket. Hosting your own team calls, whatever it is, that would be Beachbody organization, because you're working on your team. Another thing that we learned was as your organization grows, you want to have an established system for when you work your personal business and for when you work your organization. And it should be like an 80-20, almost like the 80-20 rule with fitness and with your diet. So 80% of your business is going to be your personal business. Doing your vital behaviors, inviting, reaching out to new people, recruiting, building relationships, things like that. Plus your personal health and fitness, because our body is our business, and eating what you're supposed to be eating, drinking your Shakeology, things like that. That's part of your Beachbody personal. And then 20% on Beachbody organization, like I said, team building things, training, recognition, getting started right calls, posting in your team page, creating a team page, all those things would be organizational things. So those are your last two buckets. I hope they're the last two buckets for all of you.
Yeah, and we'll give you more examples of this because you are going to end up filling in those vital behaviors. And there's a difference between your vital behaviors and your to-do list. So we will go over that later. So don't worry about putting in all these vitals right now. But just know that those last two buckets are for Beachbody. And one other thing I just wanted to mention is we heard a lot from Melanie Mitro when we were at the New Leader Conference. And one of the things that really struck me from that was she said, even at this point in her business, and she is a 2-time #1 coach in Beachbody. So clearly, I mean, she recruited over 365 coaches last year and the year before. So over a coach a day. She has a lot of coaches. That being said, she stood up there and said, 80% of my business, I still focus on my business. And 20% I focus on my coaches. So even with somebody who has that many coaches, this is still the way that it's done, and it's the way to make sure that you are setting an example for your team and moving forward. Okay, so now you're going to label the rest of your boxes. So I'm assuming you've all got Beachbody Personal, Beachbody Organizational. So the rest of your 3 boxes can be whatever you want. This is my example. I put my slides up here from when I did this. So I personally picked personal because I feel like I need time for me. I think that's really smart. Personal can include things, and you'll see in the next slide, like workouts, personal development, alone time. I don't know about any of you, but I feel like I need that to kind of like decompress and be my best self. Family, if family is really important to you, spending time with your kids, spending time with your husband, spending quality family time together. Mom life for me, which this was my box, and I'm like, I don't really know if I have a third box that I really want to be spending my focused energy on. But for me, that's stuff like laundry and running errands and picking up the house. I know a lot of you have full-time jobs or part-time jobs. It's a little bit trickier for some of you that have busier lives, have a full-time job or a part-time job, because that means you've got one less box than those of us that don't, because that has to be one of your boxes. You have no choice but to go to your job and to do whatever those vital behaviors are there. So it just means that you've got to prioritize your time better in these other boxes so that you are able to do everything it is that's going to put you to the goal that you want to be at. So go on to the next one. Do you want to take this, Andy, or you want me to get it?
I'll take it. So you're going to write down 1 through 4 in each box, and these are your vital activities that you must do in each bucket each week. So whatever you decide is your top priority in each thing, that's what you're going to write down here. Shayna, since these are your buckets, if you want to give the examples you gave, then you can take it.
So the one thing I do want to point out, don't do more than 4. In these buckets, 4, max. 3, awesome. 4, absolutely max, because you only have so many hours in a day. So you really do need to prioritize and manage your time better, especially with starting or continuing to build your Beachbody business. So to give an example, these are what I put in my boxes. And they could be different for you. Even the Beachbody boxes. I'm not saying that my Beachbody personal and my Beachbody organizational boxes is like the cement. This is what you should definitely have in these boxes. It's something that I feel like in my organization and in my personal Beachbody business, I need to spend my quality time on. As you can see, like the 3 vital behaviors, for example, we all know that being the proof the product works and personal development are part of the vital behaviors for our business. But I put that in my personal time because that's my personal time. Yes, doing my workout and doing my personal development could be considered part of my Beachbody personal. But to me, that is something that I do for me. I do personal development because it builds me up and it makes me feel better and it helps me to be a better leader and a better mom and a better wife. I do my workouts every day because honestly, I would do them whether or not I was a Beachbody coach. It has nothing to do with Beachbody for me personally. I do it because I want to be healthy. I want to set a good example for my family and for my son. But this just kind of gives you an idea of different things that you can fill in here. Obviously, your buckets could be completely different than mine, and don't feel like they can't be. The other thing I want to mention at this point is, if you are sitting here trying to frantically think of like, oh my God, what are my different buckets and what are my 1 through 4s? Don't feel like you've got to do this all within this call. I know when Jeremy was sitting down to do this, we all had our papers out at the leadership retreat and we're all writing down our buckets, and I was getting stressed out, like anxious about like, oh my God, I don't know like what all of my buckets should be and what all the things in my buckets should be. And it gets overwhelming as you first start this. And I don't want you to feel that way. Just know that this is a basis for you to go back to and sit down and really think about what's important to you, because this is something that isn't meant to be rushed. It's something that Jeremy even said he does 2-3 times throughout the year just to make sure that what he's doing every day is in alignment with his end goals, not just business goals, but his personal goals too. So don't feel like you've got to get everything set in stone on this call right now. These are just examples for you so that you can go back to this later if you don't have it all filled out now, and go ahead and fill it out.
And it can also be a fluid thing. You know, what you set right now might look very different 6 months from now or 3 months from now, if and when your goals change and things like that. So it's not set in stone. And as you work through this, you might find that, oh, you know, I made this my number 1 priority in mom life, and I really hate doing laundry, and I don't care if it gets done or whatever.
And that brings me to another quick point too, because I brought this up with Jeff. This is something that I wanted to bring up with him and I wanted to do with him. So I shared with him exactly what it is that you guys are seeing on your screen right now when he got home from work today. And I'm not going to lie, I have things that are on this paper right now that are crossed out and have changed, because he's like, well, what about this? And I don't know that that is that important. And it's totally true. It's one of those things where it takes that brainstorming, and you want you and your family to be on the same page, because the whole point of this is to bring you guys kind of together in a, okay, I understand what it is that's important to you and what you're working towards, and now I can help you to work towards that at the same time, kind of thing. So Andy, if you don't mind, I'm going to do this slide and I'll have you do the next one, just because I break down how I figured this out and it's kind of confusing. But basically this is the part where I kind of stopped at the leadership retreat, you guys, because this is the point where we estimated the hours that you're going to do for each bucket, which is crazy overwhelming for me. I don't know if it's overwhelming for anybody else, but to think of how many hours I'm going to dedicate to each bucket, I felt like I really needed to sit down and think about what were my vital activities in these buckets and how much time do I honestly need to do that. So if you don't have your hours right now, don't freak out, but I'm just going to give you a quick example of how I figured out the hours for one of my buckets. So for my personal bucket, this is how I figured that my weekly hours in that bucket is 26 hours. So my workouts are between 30 and 45 minutes a day. So I average that out to 5 hours a week for working out. My personal development, I aim for 30 minutes a day. And sometimes I will say that that is time that is when I am getting ready and showering, because my personal development sometimes is listening to an Audible. A lot of you I know who work full time, you listen to books when you're driving in the car. So that's kind of a multitasking, which is a bonus. But I just put it in there. So as personal development, 30 minutes a day, that's 3.5 hours a week. Showering and getting ready, don't judge me. It takes me 90 minutes to shower and get ready. It is 10.5 hours a week, which totally blows my mind that I'm spending so much time straightening my hair, but I do. So I'm being honest with myself and what I do in my own personal life. And to be honest, it is one of those things that just makes me feel so much better about myself. So it's totally worth it. And then alone time, I am the kind of person who needs my own time to regroup and feel like I can give back to other people. So I give myself an hour a day, which I know may sound insane to some of you, but I am lucky enough that my husband supports this because he knows how important it is for our marriage as well. So I gave myself 7 hours a week, which ended up with 26 hours. I just gave this as an example. I did this literally with every single one of my buckets to figure out how many weekly hours I'm spending. The Beachbody Personal, as you can see, I did 21 or 28 hours because I'm kind of torn between doing 3 hours a day and 4 hours a day for my business because I am really, really pushing this year. Don't feel like you have to spend that much time on your business. I don't want you to feel like if you've only got an hour a day to work this, there's no way that you can do this, because it's not true. It's just something that I'm putting out there because I'm really pushing for some big goals this year. So anyway, go through the weekly, but don't feel like you've got to fill it out now, and definitely go over this with your spouse because it's going to be really important. Sorry, I cut you off, Andy. What were you going to say?
That's okay. I was just going to say I would second that. You know, your goals might not be the same as what my goals are. They might not be the same as what Shayna's goals are. So don't look at her, how much time she's devoting to Beachbody, and feel like that has to be what you're going to do. But on the same token, another thing that we really learned at leadership was that if you really want big things out of this, it's going to take time. And, you know, the power hour, we want the power hour to be 1 hour a day done. But once your team starts to grow, there are other tasks that come into play that you have to do as a leader to continue your organization growing. Sorry, Corbin's distracting me. So just keep that in mind. It's all going to align with what your goals in the business are and what your personal goals are with your family and your personal life and everything. Everybody has the same amount of time in their week, 168 hours. I didn't know that. Thanks, Shayna. So remember, you have to factor in sleep. Okay. Don't schedule every single hour of your day. We don't want you to do this and then freak out and go, oh my gosh, Shayna's working for 26 hours a week on the business and I don't have that much time and I don't want to do that much time and I'm never going to be able to sleep because I have a full-time job. That's not the goal of this. The goal of this is for you to prioritize your life. And remember that life happens. So you're not going to, the next step is to put this into your calendar. You're not going to sit down on your calendar and write out at 6 a.m. I'm doing this, at 7 a.m. I'm doing this. No. That's not what we want. So leave time for life to happen and so that you can enjoy things. The biggest take home for me, guys, was to unplug. This helped me so much. And here, I did all this and then I spent all weekend working. But now I feel like I have clarity. I wish I would have done this a month ago at the beginning of the year because that's just how my brain works. But I finally found some time to sit down. I told my husband I need to focus this weekend and get a game plan going forward. And I need to get organized so that from now on, I am with you guys. I'm present. I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking, excuse me, checking messages. But I can also be super productive in my business because I as well have really big goals for our team. And I want to be a better leader this year. I feel like there's things that I've fallen short on. So that means that 20% of my Beachbody organization bucket, there's big tasks in there that I need to be more consistent with for you guys going forward. One other thing I wanted to add is if you're not tracking your business, don't worry, Shayna, I'm not going to go too far into this. But if you're not tracking your business, I would highly recommend that you find a system and start now. That's something that I should have done long ago. And let me tell you, it is a whole new world these days. I've been doing it for 3 days now, or 4 days, what day of the month I'm on. And it has helped so much to be able to check things off my list and then again, unplug and feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish for the day. And now I'm done and now I'm with my kids. So find a tracker. We both posted them in our team pages in the file section if you want some examples, or you can use an Excel spreadsheet, however you want to do it, but just track your business. And when I say track, what I'm talking about is keep track of people that you're talking to, what they're interested in, what workouts they like, things like that, so that you have the basis of the relationship to go back and talk to them about. Because if you are truly doing your power hour every day and networking with new people every day, you're going to forget things about people and you're going to have people fall through the cracks. I can't even tell you how many times I scroll across somebody and I go, oh my gosh, she was somebody that probably would have wanted to get in my challenge group and I forgot to follow up. So you don't want that to happen to you.
Okay, so now that you've got your buckets written down, at least a general idea of them, a general idea of what each bucket at least is labeled, and a few of those vital activities that you need to do for each of them, make a to-do list for every single one of your buckets. Just completely brain them. Just think, okay, family, what all do I have to do from family? Write it down, write it down, write it down. If one of your buckets is personal, what all do I feel like I need to do for my personal life? Write down everything, as little as like painting your toenails, whatever it is. For your business, write down everything you feel like you have to do, even if it's not like one of those vital behaviors or vital activities. This is your chance to just kind of get it all out there. Think about everything you feel like you need to get done in a week to be successful and to strive towards your goals. Then I want you to go ahead and circle the things that you have to do, that nobody else could do. You can't ask anybody else to do it. You can't ask for your husband's help on it. You can't ask for your team to take over part of it. It's something that you have to do, and this is the key, that you have to do in order to fulfill one of the 3 to 4 vital activities in your bucket. It has to be something that is working towards those goals. I was listening to a podcast, which is a little off on a tangent, sorry, about one of the, I think it's like Richard Branson, I don't know, one of the big entrepreneurs. Just put ex-entrepreneur here, whoever you can think of who's a huge entrepreneur, just put him in there. But anyway, somebody wanted him to talk for their group, and they offered an amount of money, and his PR people came back and said, nope, he's not going to do it. So they offered more money, and the PR people were like, nope, he's still not going to do it. And they offered a blank check and said, hey, tell him to fill out whatever it is that he wants. We want him to talk for us. And the PR people came back to him and said, nope, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you offer him. What you want him to do is not in alignment with his goals and what it is that he's working towards right now. So no matter what you offer him, he's not going to do it. It's not part of what's going to be propelling him towards his main focused goals are. And that's where I want you guys to get right now, is what I'm doing every day has to work me towards those goals. And I don't just mean business goals. I mean personal goals too. One of my personal goals, huge goal, is to be present with my son every day. It is a huge goal for me because it's very difficult. And I feel like a lot of us as Beachbody coaches probably have that same thing where we feel like we're on our phones all the time, or we have to message people back all the time. And then when we're not doing that, we're cooking dinner, or we're going to our actual jobs or whatever it is. And we're not spending that focused quality time with our families, which is, let's be honest, the point that a lot of us are in this business for. So make sure that these things that you're circling on your to-do list are going to work you towards whatever those goals are in those buckets. And then anything that doesn't help you to fulfill those vital activities, figure out a way to cut it out. I know this is a really hard step, because that can mean cutting out things that have become very routine to you. It can mean cutting out activities that you do actually enjoy doing, watching TV, going out to happy hour with friends, things like that. But if it's not working towards these vital activities, it's time to either cut them back, or you need to make those one of your vital activities in your buckets. If it's that important to you, it should be there. So figure out ways to cut those things out, or either put them into those 4 vital activities in your bucket, or figure out a way that you can delegate that stuff to somebody else. So for example, one of my buckets is mom life, and I hate that bucket because I just hate the idea of spending my time on laundry and cleaning the house and these things that I don't feel like are a good use of my time. Because to me, time is money. And if I am going to spend my time on anything, I want it to be on this business. I want it to be on my family. So one of the things that I'm starting to look into is getting a maid. Just somebody that will come every 2 weeks and clean my dang house. So that has to be off my list. I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm not saying go hire a maid. If I totally understand if that's not something that's in the realm of possibility for you right now. It's really not for me either. I'm just trying to figure out how to make it happen. But figure out ways that you can delegate these things that aren't necessarily crucial to your end goal, whatever those are, and to those vital activities in your buckets.
All right, so once you have this all mapped out, how long you're going to spend on each thing and what your buckets are going to be and what these items are, and you've gone through and you've circled the most vital things, You're going to sit down with your family, you're going to go over it. And just like Shayna said, once she did it with Jeff, there were things that he brought up that she didn't think of and stuff. So it's important to get your spouse on board. I've made a lot of assumptions on what Eric might be thinking with the amount of time that I've put into this business. And after talking to him about it, he's actually way more on board than I gave him credit for. And maybe that's where you're at. I don't know, where you guys are at with your spouses with that, but don't make assumptions. Talk to them about it. Don't, if you don't share with them what this means to you and where you want it to go and what your goals are and why it's so important to you, then how are they going to know? You really need to communicate that with them. And then you're going to put it on your calendar. So that's what the color codes are for. That way, when you look at your calendar, your brain will automatically know that your personal bucket is red because that's so important to you, and red is like fire and you got to get that stuff done. So anything red is your personal stuff, or maybe Beachbody blue because Beachbody blue or whatever. And that way when you just look at your calendar, the colors are already telling you and showing you how much time each day you're going to be spending on each of those things. Google Calendar is perfect for this because you can actually put the colors into that. You can also share it on your phones and all of that. It'll all sync up. And then you can share the calendars with your family members also and give it time. So like I said, this is something that's going to evolve over time. I know mine's not perfect. I'm still working on setting actual business hours, which is obviously what this whole thing is about. But just with our schedules and the ages of our kids right now, it's kind of difficult with a newborn to say, this is exactly when I'm going to work every single day. So it's in terms of when it's going to happen is fluid for me right now, and it just has to be. Hi, Olivia. But it feels good to have set time now. Like just doing this call right now was such a point of anxiety for me. Rewind, even a couple months ago, I felt guilty asking Eric to be like, hey, right after you get home and after we eat dinner, I'm going to host a call. And so you know what? I wasn't doing it. I was totally slacking on calls. And calls are super important so I can connect with you girls, see your faces, see what you guys need from me, teach you things straight from me, not always just throwing calls at you through the team page. So that's just one example of why this is so important, to really prioritize, set your business hours, and fill your buckets and then go with it and tweak things that aren't working. And I'm telling you, it'll be a really freeing feeling, and it'll change that anxiety that might be in your chest like it was for me for the whole last year.
Yeah, definitely. And then the few little things that I wanted to add, and these are just things that I've thought about as I was creating my own buckets and talking to Jeff about it. Make daily to-do lists. It is a game changer when you can actually look at what it is that you've got to do during that day, how those things align with what it is that you actually want to accomplish long term. And then you can figure out what's really important, what matters. Because I'll tell you right now, you're never going to have a day where you feel like you've finished everything on your to-do list. You are never going to have a day where you go to bed and think, I did everything in the world that I needed to do today for my business. Because there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be that next step, that one little thing you could have done, or the 5 big things that you could have done, but you just ran out of time for it. So you've got to learn how to prioritize your to-do list into the most important things so that, some days you're going to roll those things over to the next day because you just don't have time every day, and that's okay. The other thing that I wanted to say, set a timer for your tasks. I'm not saying set a timer for your personal tasks, okay, we've got an hour, Ryan, and when this timer goes off, mom's leaving. But I'm saying for your Beachbody tasks especially, think about it okay, I've got my power hour. These are the things that I really need to get done in my power hour. I've really got to invite people to a challenge group. I really need to network and branch out and friend request so many people. And set a timer and think to yourself, okay, I've got 5 minutes to do this, and do it for those 5 minutes, and however far you get, done. Because now you've got to move on to this next task in order to make sure you make the most of your time. That's something, if you guys are going to be on the call tomorrow that Kelly and I are going to go over, we're going to do a live power hour tomorrow and basically show you how we set timers for our business so that we know that, okay, 5 minutes. You guys got 5 minutes, do it, do as much as you can, check, move on. Because even if you don't get it done, doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you had more to do in that area and you can move it on to the next day. And then the last little tidbit that I wanted to do, I know this call's going a little long, so I'll hurry, but don't get discouraged. Like Andy said, it's going to take time to make this work. It takes time to make a habit. This is one of the things I talked to Jeff about when I got home from leadership, because it is something we learned there, and then it kind of just got reiterated at the Diamond Retreat last weekend. But it's something that I told him, look, I know that it's going to take more time in the beginning, but it's going to pay off in the long run if we sit down and we take the time to do this month and get into a routine of doing it. So Jeremy Red brought up a really great example. I'm all about examples, about an astronaut taking off into space. And a space shuttle takes a ton of energy to get out of the atmosphere. The majority of the energy is just getting out of the atmosphere. And then when you get out of the atmosphere, you're smooth sailing. You're not using that much energy because now you've got the gravity of the earth and it's pulling you around and you're good. That is the same thing with this or any other thing that you're tweaking in your business, in your personal life, anything. It takes time to get into that routine. It takes energy to get into that routine. But once it's become a routine, once it's become a habit, it can be that thing where it's like, okay, on Sundays for 15 minutes, we're going to sit down and we're going to plan out our week, and it's going to be like bing, bing, boom, and you're done and you've got your plan, and you just feel this sense of relief knowing that, okay, like I gave myself an hour to work my business in the morning. I did that hour. I used it to the best of my ability. I prioritized it. And now I can put my phone down. I can put it on silent. I can turn off my notifications, and I can be present with my family or whatever else it is that you've got to do during the day. You don't feel like you have to keep going back to it or check it on your lunch break or whatever. You just feel like I did what I needed to do today. And that is my goal for each and every one of you, is to get to that point, because I know I have often felt chained to my phone. I've often felt like somebody messages me and I've got to get back to them right away. You don't. Like, just set yourself these business hours, and I promise you, if you are prioritizing right and you're really working this business, it's not going to negatively affect what it is that you're doing. So that's my last little spiel. If you have anything else you want to add, then we'll go for questions, and then we're good.
I got one last little thing. When you are doing your power hour or anything business related, turn your notifications off. I'm not saying go in your settings and turn them off, but turn your phone over, put it on silent. That is one thing that screws me up all the time. I will sit down to do my power hour, and then I'll look at this notification, and then I'll start Facebook scrolling, and then, oh, I got 2 more notifications. Oh, she checked into my challenge group. Oh, I should talk to her. Oh, now she's texting me and my phone's ringing. And before you know it, my hour's gone and I've done nothing. And I can't function like that anymore. I'm telling you right now, it's making me a crazy woman. And Jeremy said that. He said he puts his phone on airplane mode when he needs to focus his attention on something. And I have been turning my phone off while I'm working and working from my computer and turning the notifications off so that whatever task I'm doing, I have blinders on so that I can get in, get it done, and worry about all that later. You don't need to scroll through your Facebook, and you don't need to check your notifications all day long. Set a certain time in your day that's what you're going to do, that you're going to go through your messages and you're going to respond to your text messages and you're going to check in with your challenge groups. You don't need to be the coach that the second somebody posts their sweaty selfie that you're commenting on it right then. You're going to give that person encouragement and you're going to check in with them. It doesn't have to be the minute they post it. And trust me, that was a mistake I made early on in my business, and it was a bad habit that I've been in for a long time. Now, part of my day is to check in. And when I'm checking in, I go in every single group I'm in, and I comment and I like, and I'm in and out of that group. And then I go into the team page and I comment and I answer questions. And then I go into whatever trainings I'm in and I do my training. It's very methodical now. And that way I'm not distracted and I can get my work done. So definitely try that. And I swear it'll be a whole new world.
All right. So I know we just threw like a lot of stuff at you, and it's something that you're going to have to sit down and redo. I will show you, if I can find it, like my very first buckets. This is what I wrote down when I was there. I was scribbling frantically over a piece of paper. It is a disaster. It took me time like sitting down and actually focus thinking about it. So definitely do that. But if you guys have questions, now's the time.
I actually just want to know, Shayna, where you got those the leader trackers, because I want to order more.
I actually got the basis for it from the diamond training that you are going to get into tomorrow, because Danielle is hitting diamond tomorrow. Yay!
Congrats, Danielle.
Yay.
But Brandy posted an entire tracker, and she did it by the leadership ladder. So like business builders, the leader tracker, which is what I sent to you and the other girls in the Team Cup team. I tweaked it so that it was literally a month's worth, because for me, I need it to be like whole. And I can post the file that I did. So if you want to get them printed somewhere, I just got it printed at FedEx.
Yeah, that would be great, because I like the idea of doing it a month at a time.
Yeah.
So I like it. I'm just going to keep using those.
Definitely. I'll post the link in both Faithfully Fit and Goal Crushers in case anybody wants to print those out for them, because I'm honestly finding it really helpful to use that as well. So
I posted the link to the one that Brandy did in Faithfully Fit already, but I don't think I posted the one that you tweaked yet.
okay. Yeah, I have to post it as a Dropbox link because the PDF is like ginormous. But I can definitely do that.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Any other questions or anything?
I have one.
Yeah.
Finally, some quiet around here. I missed it, but I didn't. So okay, I saw like some people in our leadership group doing the their buckets, the colors. Is that Excel that they're using?
Yeah. So some of the people in the leadership retreat, Kelly asked us to go and basically share what our buckets look like on a calendar. I'm personally going to use Google Calendar just because it's something that I can share between Jeff and I can both tweak it, and we can sit down at a computer and do it, which I feel like is so much easier than my phone. But I know a lot of the girls are using an Excel spreadsheet, and they basically just like plotted out an entire day in an Excel spreadsheet and have plotted their days out that way. To me, that's a little more difficult just because my days are always different. Like every single Monday doesn't always look like every single Monday, and every single Tuesday doesn't always look like every single Tuesday. So for me, my weeks have to be more fluid than that. But I can ask, I know Michelle, I saw that she had posted one, and I think Hillary did too. So I can ask them for that too, in case anybody else is interested in seeing how they've done their buckets as well, because obviously we all think differently. So I'll get that for you guys as well so that you can look at it too.
And I just want to say thank you to all of you for getting on. If there's more questions, that's fine. But I just want to say this real quick. Thank you for getting on, especially all you mamas holding babies right now, because I feel you. Mine's like about to wake up. That's why I keep looking over there. And it just shows me that you guys are ready. You guys are working hard, and it means a lot to Shane and I that you guys showed up tonight, baby in arms, or, you know, yelling in the background or whatever. That's how we've gotten to this point, is with our little screaming in the background. So I just want to encourage you guys that this is real. This is the real deal. And you guys showing up in these calls is huge. And, you know, maybe you get a few things from tonight. I hope you get a lot from tonight. But just in general, showing up to these calls, being present, the elite training that we're in right now, Brandy did a shout out about that today, like a gut check. You're plugging in and you're learning, and then you're applying it. You're going to take off. It's just a matter of time. So, Farah, I love you. I see you bouncing your babe right there. And I'm just proud of you. I just think it's awesome.
All right, ladies, does anybody else have any other questions? I know we've gone a little long tonight. All right, well, if you guys think of any other... Did you have a question, Farah?
Yeah, I was saying thank you for everything.
Oh, of course. If you guys think of any other questions, or for those of you that are able to watch the recording and stuff, if you think of any questions, let us know. I'll post the link to this as its own separate link, and feel free to share what your buckets look like, even if it's just a rough draft. I think it's really helpful to see what other people have done. I know that when we sat down and did this in Tahoe, it was emotional for a lot of us. It was emotional to think about how poorly we've been spending our time and how much we have been letting either this business or whatever else distract us from what's important. Not saying that Beachbody isn't important, because that's a huge part of my life, but my most important is Ryan and my husband, and how much this is distracted from them. It was a little bit jarring and a little shocking. But take time, look over this, and just when you're doing it, keep this one quote in mind that Jeremy said, and it's what I keep in mind every day, and I've actually have it written up here now on my wall because I loved it. Be where your feet are. Wherever you are, be there. Be there 100% and be there focused. So that's kind of the goal of this whole buckets training, and I hope that's what you guys all got out of it. And yay, Danielle, for being Diamond tomorrow. Good job, girl.
Congratulations.
All right, ladies. Well, everybody have a great night. And yeah, any other questions, just drop it below the video when I post it later tonight.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.